at ArrowNex for healthcare. He has over a decade plus experience in the healthcare industry, a doctor himself. He really understands both the education aspect and the technology aspect. And he has been one of our most vigorous and ambitious channel partner till date. So thank you so much, Dr. Pradesh, for joining us today. For the audience sake, would you like to kind of go ahead and share a bit more about you?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon to my friends in the UAE and across the world. Thank you for being here today. A big thanks to the whole team at MediSimVR, especially Mr. Lennon, for having coordinated the whole program for this brainchild of his, that is the webinar, and my team here at ArrowNex Abu Dhabi. It's an honor to present this vision of ours for transforming the medical education of the UAE, so to speak. I am Dr. Pradesh Satyan, an assistant professor in oral pathology and microbiology for over 15 years, a practicing dentist for longer, and a student of science for life. My areas of expertise, according to me at least, include medical education, scientific communication, research, and a never ending love for tech. So, yeah, that is, I think, in a nutshell about me. So, Lennon, have we take on from here or please?
Sure, doctor, sure. So, for everyone else, this is basically the purpose of the entire webinar is to kind of address a very important emerging market, the UAE. Dr. Pradesh here represents ArrowNex and MediSimVR in the UAE. And today we'll talk about a couple of things. First, we'll talk about the scope of ambition and the scope and the vision that UAE has for healthcare education, healthcare training, and healthcare generally speaking. And we will also try to understand that how does a virtual reality based technology fits in to this mission of UAE and how it can really help scale up the entire engagement. So that's the purpose, is the core purpose of today's episode. So, Dr. Pradesh, a lot of what we'll talk about today is basically a lot of conversations we have had in the past.
True that. So, yeah.
So
So,
let's dive into what has been always your favorite topic. That is the future that UAE is looking forward to, the ambition, the scope of innovation that UAE is looking forward to. Can you help us understand a bit more about where you think UAE is heading when it comes to healthcare education and healthcare broadly?
absolutely, absolutely. My pleasure. So, yeah, I think it has to go with the preface that the UAE has long demonstrated its commitment to excellence in various fields. And today, we will be exploring how virtual reality can actually play a pivotal role in shaping the next generation of healthcare professionals. Our presentation, I think, is going to be centered around UAE's very ambitious national strategy for well-being 2030. We'll talk in detail about it maybe later. But yes, this prioritizes preventive care, advanced treatments, thriving medical education ecosystem. Uh, this is more than a strategy. It's a call to innovate and to lead. Let's delve into how VR is not just a tool, but rather a transformative approach to medical training and how it aligns with the UAE's, quite lofty aspirations to become a global hub for medical education. So yes, I think uh, it's only fitting that we have to talk about how uh, US healthcare scenario has changed a lot. UAE has been probably one of the first in the world to actually hardly embrace the metaverse. Because there are numerous examples here with quite a few universities here, as well as the whole idea of a healthcare city, the Dubai healthcare city. The whole thing is based on new technology evolution, new technology adoption, and the metaverse has been pushed very much further, not only in medical but in many fields. But medical is one of the major fields that they have actually earmarked as an area of national importance. So, for example, there's a healthcare development program of 2021. There's a national strategy of nursing and midwifery 2026. And obviously, like I said before, the national strategy of well-being 2031. These are all, highlights of that future-driven approach where they are combining, strategic investment, international collaborations, and all to create an ecosystem where research, talent cultivation, cutting-edge technology, all of them can flourish. Yes, the UAE is actually, what I feel, setting global benchmark. So this strategy we will be discussing, we will just try to understand a little bit more. So please consider this more as an overview of what the situation is like. Probably, if all goes well in further installments, we will discuss in detail about all of these areas. So Lennon, I think, we should be moving forward.
Yes, doctor, totally, totally. I mean, what you said is true. The concept of or the mission is not just on paper; it's actually on ground. The metaverse aspect, right? Abdul Latif Jamil Healthcare Center, they already have a very advanced metaverse and medicine collaboration. It is a concept. Um, Totally true. So you also understand, along with the advantage and the vision of UAE when it comes to healthcare education, you also have a very good understanding of the challenges that UAE faces. And I have prepared my next slide based on some of these challenges that you mentioned. Would you like to kind of
True, true.
elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Before we get into this, I think, we have to also really address the fact that the push for immunization is a big push that is happening here. And because, there's a huge, I think, we'll deal with the challenges and we'll talk about this in between. So what we have seen here is that, although this is a multicultural country, you have people from all over the world. Because of the way the how can I say, the healthcare system is regulated, and because the way, there is more of a push for prevention, there's a lack of case diversity mainly, especially compared to tropical countries, or like, and coming to rare conditions, it's very difficult. And secondly, although the healthcare system is moving towards a world class facilities, the medical education is still, what can I say, on the verge of going in a completely new direction, because the adoption of technology and all these things. So challenges, I feel, the first one is a lack of case diversity, which can very well be, um, but what can I say, I mean, which can be, to an extent at least, we can take care of by way of using VR. We'll come to that. Then there are very strict patient laws, or rather healthcare rules and regulations that are there. So be it patient records, be it treatment for patients, everything is following a very, very regulated system. So for that very same reason, graduates are not always given the opportunity to examine patients, all kinds of patients, and seeing all kinds of patients, all kinds of um, what can I say, procedures. I mean, observation is possible, but hands-on is very much limited. The next is, there's a over-reliance of expatriates from all around the world. Indians make up a big number. You have um, Filipino healthcare professionals, you have European healthcare professionals. Obviously, you also have a lot of um, North America base, you have European base, like I said, all over Southeast Asia, South Asia, all these areas you have. So, but the push for emeritisation is something else that we have to keep in mind. Now, coming to the emeritisation, uh, see, most of the we can actually talk about the universities here as being either in the private or the public domain. The public domain is very much highly funded, and also you have this emeritus that is making up the bulk of the students here. So the training that can be given to them, the innovation that can be done to make sure that these challenges are actually met, would be a good challenge for us. Then you have this fragmented regulatory bodies. Fragmentation as in not a bad thing, but we need to understand that there are actually three main regulatory bodies here in the UAE. The small, um, what we can call it as, comparatively small compared to many other places. You have the Department of Health that comes under Abu Dhabi. You have the Dubai Health Authority and Dubai Health that comes under Dubai. And for the Northern Emirates, we have the Ministry of Health. So all these three, although they have the common string that is there going through, but the regulations are separate. And for the very same reason, standardization is something else that can be considered to be a challenge here. These are challenges that we can see, and many of these can actually be bridged by using our VR technology. What do you think about it, Len, based on our interactions?
For me personally, Dr. Pradesh has been immense. It's a great learning curve. The amount of information and knowledge you have brought in about the UAE is fantastic. And the more we have discussed and tried to understand the market, the more and more it seems that the challenges are uniformly about a couple of things, which also aligns with what we're doing at Medicine VR and ArrowNex together, which is the VR-based skill training. VR-based skill training is able to help with standardization. It's able to help with bridging this whole, dealing with this whole challenge of lack of diversity of patients, the challenges of not having access to patients, even those, all these things we're talking about, VR seems to be a very ready solution to deal with these challenges. So that way, I think our conversations led to this good understanding of what, how VR can help deal with these challenges in UAE. So based on again our conversation earlier, what I will do now is take you and the audience to the next segment of our discussion, which is where we'll focus more or less around virtual reality based skill training solutions. If these are the challenges that UAE has, how does VR based skill training solution really help in solving that? So we have this pyramid that you helped me create, 4 steps, 4 major reasons. Doctor, would you like to go ahead and kind of help us understand these 4 steps better? And how do you think these 4 features or advantages of VR will really help the UAE efforts in improving medical education?
Certain, for certain. I think, these four very important cornerstones, what we can call, of VR, or rather, impacts of VR in medical education. Let's just try to dive into some measurable ones here. One would be improved knowledge retention. See, the immersive world that is created by virtual reality, so it's different from the actual simulation. Is absolutely a very very useful tool in medical education, but once you have that immersive component coming in, that actually takes it to the next level. So we always talk about everything, something else being the next best thing, the next best thing. I think without a doubt, we are the tech of VR is very much the next best thing when it comes to actually improving that knowledge retention part, because you create this immersive component that helps to focus the or everything of a student or a graduate for that matter for a that focus time. So we're not talking about 1 2 3 hours of content. No, we're talking about maybe training modules of 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And this, when you have that immersive thing, so it's very much like a training. It's like giving training wheels to a new graduate. Now, what comes out of it? So what is the outcome from this? So one of the best outcomes is that you have much enhanced procedural accuracy. For example, something as simple as whenever we talk about what are the steps to do, we make sure that all these modules that have been produced for the skill training in virtual reality by MediSimVR actually follows a protocol based drive, wherein it actually, the end outcome, the learning outcome that is expected is actually in getting more of that procedural accuracy. So it's not only doing the procedure, but doing it in the correct steps. Now, once a graduate is trained in such a way, what do you have? You have much reduced chances of medical errors occurring, which is like a huge thing, because the amount of money that is lost, I think, is in the billions for due to negligence or lack of training. So that can be addressed to a large, extent by VR. Now, is it saying VR is the only solution? No, VR is not the only solution, but VR seems to be the most cost effective solution. And the solution that is provided by Medicine VR is different from other VR solutions in that the utilization that is gotten and based on the studies that we have are like, it's an eye opener. And I think the UAE is primed to actually get hold of this kind of what can I say, training opportunity by using VR, by uh, going full tilt on VR. It's amazing. Now, in addition to getting these medical errors down, you also have increased patient safety, because you don't have to worry about untrained or a less trained. You cannot say untrained, but a person who's not as competent actually having to work on a patient. We can have this in different. I think we will deal with that also in the further on. We will deal with this also, as in how this actually helps. But yes, these are the 4 points that improved knowledge retention, leading to enhanced procedural accuracy, leading to reduced medical errors. At the end of the day, greater patient safety. What else can you ask for from a new technology in healthcare? Len, if you may.
Beautifully put, Doctor. That's I mean, I really don't have much to add once you have done the job of really explaining both the product and its application. Something only a doctor and someone who's also a tech aficionado, a tech enthusiast can really present. So thank you so much for that really very lucid explanation of both the challenges and how Medicine VR's product acts as a very clear, direct solution. So for all our listeners right now, we'll also kind of go ahead now and show them a video of when we talk about VR or Medicine VR products, what does it, how does it really look like, and how does it really have an impact on students? So I'll just go ahead and show a short introductory video that will help our listeners understand better about the Medicine VR product.
Indeed.
It's always gives me a lot of it kind of gets me very excited when we go through this particular video, as we can clearly show that a lot of what we talk about as VR-based solutions are not just pure tabletop products where someone walks in, puts on a headset, and then experiences medical procedures. As you can see, it's all about an entirely end-to-end learning experience where a student walks into a space where they don't really have to worry about the interface, actually go into a scenario where they can learn a medical procedure, not just observe, but really practice. And then, of course, there are aspects to it that goes beyond just virtual reality-based medical education. There are aspects which are also about AI and a lot of other fancy features. Dr. Pradesh, would you like to kind of go ahead and explain to our listeners that a medicine VR based medical education product is not just limited to excellent VR based solutions, but also goes beyond that?
Oh, with pleasure, with pleasure. Like it still gives me goosebumps every time I see that video for the simple reason that, what I had always thought would have been a good idea to actually see a product like that in the market, ready for deployment. It's amazing. Again, being in the education, medical education sector, especially during times of COVID, these were things that we actually, thought had something like this been available. But now, yeah, it is available. So there's no reason why you should not be going for it. Anyways, coming back, like you had just put in, as in, it's not just a VR solution. I think the last thing people should think is medicine VR Strive, especially SARIV. It's not exactly a, what can I say, a VR solution. No, it is exactly like you said, an end-to-end solution for skill training in medical education. So yeah, how does it exactly help? So these are some of the points that we have seen. One of this being, personalized learning paths. See, being a medical student, we have been exposed to this condition where, one patient and like 20 of us and a teacher, one for doctors, who will be a professor, who will be demonstrating, will be showing us. You can't expect all 20 of us or 50 of us or 100 of us or 200 of us to actually have the same pace of learning, same level of understanding, and expect to understand this very same things in the given amount of time with that given patient. Because people, are different by design. We are different, scientifically we are different. So for that very same reason, everything is going personalized. You have personalized medicine being the next big frontier. So similarly, personalized learning paths are just it's just what can I say, it's just the next step. So similarly, by using VR, what we can get is, you can give every single student the same scenario. They can learn at their own pace. They can be guided to learn at their own pace. That's yet another thing. You don't need to have the professor with them all the time, because all our modules have being validated by external as well as internal experts, making sure it aligns completely with the learning outcome that is required. And for that very same reason, the guidance that is received, no, it cannot be, it is like quite literally the next best thing to actually being there one on one with a professor to get the training and having all your doubts um, cleared. Going on to the next part, which is the AI powered assessment. So, as the next thing, you can be trained together, but then you should be able to actually find out where you are going wrong. Are you going wrong? And if so, what are the steps that need to be taken? So the modules are such beautifully curated in that and developed in that the major or there are like checkpoints and like the at the end of a training module it actually tells, see, these are the areas where you were wrong, so that person provided they're below a cutoff that is set by the tutor will have to undergo that training again. So at the end of each module you can make sure that each of the student who completes a module would have minimum competency. So this can be set completely by the tutor and the institution, so it's very much customizable. In addition to that, what we are providing here is not like like we keep saying, it's not like anatomy in VR. That's available. You can watch videos in VR. That's available. That is not the application here. Rather, we are actually giving skills, training them in skills. And what does that lead to? Actual competency, which all we can call it as very much competency based education. So VR actually supports this type of education a lot, and it makes sure that the trainees are actually getting these specific clinical skills that have been picked up by the institution based on the curriculum that they have set, and the tutors can make sure that it is that it is always validated. It's continuously validated across the world, across universities. And then we come similarly, taking all this into account, we come to a global standardization, which is like, the end, what can we say, product that we look at. In which ways, yeah, these are basically, how we feel. We are completely, it actually makes it special. Or this is the extra sauce that is being provided by the medicine VR product that we have here. Am I right?
Yes, doctor, you're right. You're very right. It's exactly what we would say. It's an extra sauce which adds more flavor to the education experience that a medical student goes through. Three key ingredients to the sauce: personalized learning paths, AI-powered assessments, which guarantees that whatever feedback they get is precise, and this whole ingredient kind of adds up to the concept of competency-based education right now, something that UA is kind of really trying to push for in its curriculum across the board. So really well put, Dr. Pradesh. Uh, Great. Now, what I'll do is I'll move the next and the final, second last slide, where we understand that education has been imagined in a certain way for the past 100 or so years, largely to the limitation of resources. But with the availability of virtual reality based education, which can be remote, which can be standardized across the globe because of due to the way we are using AI to power these kind of education systems, a total new features get unlocked. One of them being international certifications and the ability for very easily and accessible lifelong learning education process. So, doctor, as a student, you are a medical student, as a doctor now. How do you see these things tying up and improving the overall education experience that a medical student goes through?
Oh, it's just amazing. Like I keep I'll be comparing it again to the UAE market and what's available here and what's required here. But this is actually applicable globally. For example, any healthcare professional, it is now understood the world over that they need to undergo this lifelong learning, and pretty much everyone in the healthcare field, accept it as fact. It's not something that especially at this breakneck speed with which technology is going forward, technology adoption being the norm across the board. So it's only a matter of time before you understand the importance of having this continuous education and lifelong learning, and VR actually produces that. And now this is actually talking about how, excuse me, VR can be, the technology of VR can be uh, okay, weaponized is not the word, but we can actually use it to the fullest to make sure that training doesn't stop at the medical education level. It actually continues. Now, in the UAE, it's mandatory for all healthcare professionals to undergo annual, biannual, triannual, um, what can you say, licensing renewals, and this requires them to attend a minimum number of continuing education courses. And the thing is, when you have competency based training also being a part of which we really hope it will be one day, it's making sure that the doctors have easier access to any of the continuing education or lifelong learning outcomes that they have in their mind. Now, second would be having specialized certification programs. For example, I think two and three, pretty much ties in together in that you can have specialized certification programs for typical skills. And a doctor can, any healthcare professional for that matter can come in and, have that module and keep training themselves to make sure that they are at the forefront. And this can be a completely you know adapting type of module wherein if newer technology, newer materials are understood and brought forth, this can be just plugged in and made sure that this kind of specialized certification programs can happen much more rapidly and with much more easy access to the professionals. A third would be global recognition, collaboration here. And I think the best method to understand this would be nothing, just thinking a doctor sitting here in the UAE or in India, having a wonderful idea of probably a good procedure that they want better training for, getting in contact with a peer in, say, Japan, say the United States, say anywhere in Europe or in Africa. You can all collaborate together to bring out a very unique product that is very specific. So the options of this, this kind of collaboration, we moved off from the era of what can you say, uh, letters to messaging to emails. Now you have information at your fingertips. Similarly, VR is going to make that connection even stronger, and actually making turning that into a knowledge, what can we say, exchange platform. So these are like three ways in which I feel the future of medical professionals using VR, how the future is made more proof. I hope that makes sense.
That makes very good sense, Doctor. Thank you so much for saying that. Uh, Now, of course, one thing that I would also want you to talk about is the fact that with the possibility of VR based medical education, validation and accreditation is something that can be easily affixed to a module. So you can have, let's say, a Mayo Clinic or a Stanford validating a certain process, a certain medical procedure. So branding or even co-branding VR based medical education is very much possible. Someone sitting in the UAE can have access to education, which is of the quality of, let's say, in a leading North American schools, largely because the VR scenario has been created and validated by that particular institution.
Absolutely. If I may come in, I think you have just hit the nail on the head while saying this, because, now any person sitting anywhere in the world can be a student of Harvard Medical School by just going online. They can be a student of MIT, they can be a student of any of the top institutions around the world because they have their, many of their courses online. But what is that little something more? You cannot have many experiential learning courses online. VR provides that. VR simply provides that. And it is already there. It is online. Education is online. People have moved on from that, the way education has been handed out or has been taken, training has been taken. It has moved. And this is like the natural next step. Would you say that?
Truly, it's the natural next step. We're talking about moving away from what you said earlier, pencil, pen, and classrooms, to an experiential learning experience, which is the scope of which is global, and at the same time, the learning of which is very, very personal. Thank you so much, Dr. Pradesh, for being part of this very valuable learning webinar, education webinar. I really believe that all our listeners will find this very useful. They would have understood a lot about how the UAE market uh, is evolving, how the policies are growing. And at the same time, a product like virtual reality-based training solution is something that still fits into the scale and the scope of such vast ambition. Dr. Pradesh, let's say there are people out there who want to know more about this. They have questions and they have inquiries. How do you think they should reach out to you? Would you like to share your email ID?
Sure, sure, sure. Please do, please do. Feel free to. It gives me immense pleasure to actually, be a part of such a change, being at the forefront of such a change. It's surreal to put it mildly. So, but as we are concluding this, I urge you to envision the transformative potential of VR in the medical education. It goes out to each and every one of you who might be listening here, because if you're listening here, you have to be from this sphere. Understand that the UAE is where the world is coming to right now. UAE has the vision, it has the resources, and the ambition to lead globally in the space. But to achieve this, collaboration is key. So, together with academic institutions, healthcare providers, healthcare professionals, and technology innovators, because it's always evolving, we can create a robust, future-proof system that benefits trainees and ultimately the patients that they serve. So I invite you all on this journey to be a part of this exciting journey with ArrowNex, with MediSimVR. Anything you have any doubts to any of this, feel free to contact me, Dr. Pradesh at arrownex.com, or in India or anywhere else in the world, you can contact Mr. Lenin, that is, I think, Lenin at medicimvr.com. Yes, feel free. And yes, the future is bright, the future is immersive. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining each and every one of you. Thank you so much to Mr. Lennon and the whole team at MedSimVR for coming up with this idea of this webinar. I think it is something that is very close to me, at least right now, and I really hope that the change is just around the corner. Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pradesh. This was a real joy for me to kind of sit and listen to you. For anyone who wants to learn more about VR-based medical training solutions, Dr. Pradesh at arrownex.com is how you can reach out to him. And if you want to reach out to me, it's lenin at medicinevr.com. I have placed both the email IDs in the chat section. So do drop a hello or an inquiry if you have. At the same time, we'll have more of these webinars coming up. We'll have one episode every Monday, 5 p.m. So hope to see all of you next week. Thank you, Doctor.
Bye, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.